Hi guys, it's Boo here. I've done a couple of videos in the last few days and I've mentioned an add-on called Exorsus Raid Tools, and I've said how good I think it is. It's an add-on I've only just started using, primarily for the Cormorant fight on Mythic mode. It's essential really for that fight. I've briefly glanced at the add-on and it seems to do a lot of different things, and hopefully I'm hoping it'll replace some of the add-ons I have already. By no means am I kind of any sort of expert with the add-on. I don't know it particularly well, so what I want to do is, rather than try and explain how it works, I'm sure there are much better videos out there for that. It's really just have a little first time look with you watching, and we'll kind of explore it together really. So let's bring it up and see what it does. So start off at the top, Exorsus Raid Tools, and obviously we've got the author here, and some thanks. Okay, so first thing, raid cooldowns. If anybody's seen my healing video, they know I tend to like lots of cooldowns. I have my 3-minute healing cooldowns, which are listed down here, and I have my tank externals, which are listed down here. So obviously you can enable what you want, basically. There we go. If I just unlock it, you can kind of see the panels. And if I want to add some, so at the moment I've only got sort of certain ones listed, but if I wanted to add Rallying Cry to the list, I can add that. You can add rings to it. You can put the Rebirth, Raise Ally, obviously a whole range of things. I've just got it set up at the moment as I like it. And you can configure each of these ones specifically. I do it in 2 columns, so basically those things that say tank externals, like this here, I've put them all in column 1, and this is column 1, and then I'll put all the others in column 2, which is over here, and then you split the columns. So the way you can do that is like this. So that's column 1, and you can set up icons, textures, fonts, you know, there's a whole list of things. Column 2, and again you can set it all up in there. And that, and obviously there, yeah. So after a fight, I've just been in Iron Reaver so I got some information basically. But you can see what things have been used at what times in the last fight that I did, which might be handy. Okay, so let's go on to. I don't want to spend too long on each one because obviously there's a long list to go through. So if I go on to legendary rings next. And obviously, sorry, just going back, raid cooldowns. I used to use something called Blood Legion Tracker raid cooldowns, and obviously Exorus has replaced that. Legendary rings, I generally have some weak auras that I'm quite happy with, so I'm using them at the moment. But by the looks of this, what does it do? So this just sends a message to chat saying when people have used the rings, what type of rings, and gives a raid warning. Okay, interesting. Battle Reses. Now again, at the moment, I've got something called Aura 3. So I'll just toggle that. Here we go. So this is my battle reses at the moment, so it tells me how many I've got available, how much time to the next one, and then underneath it, it will say who used it. But by looking at this, what I could do, there we go, I can use Exorus, so that would get rid of Aura 3. So that's now 2 add-ons I potentially got rid of if I want to. Hide time. So again, I guess it does the same sort of thing. So we've obviously got a time here, and it probably says in combat 1 or 2 or 3, depending on how many reses available. Okay, so that's looking at that. So fight log. So obviously this is really interesting. This. Anybody that knows me will know that I log all my fights to Warcraft logs. That gives me the opportunity to look at that after the fight. However, if you're, say, tackling a fight like Gorfin Mythic and you're going to be wiping 100, 200 times, after maybe the first hour, what it's handy to do is maybe look at what's going on actually whilst you're in the fight. You don't always want to tab out and upload the logs. I know you can live log, but most people tend to log after the fight. You don't want to take that time out to upload the logs. So what you might do is use this tool here. So I've enabled it for the last fight, which was Iron Reaver. And I've enabled the improved fight log, which just basically gives me more information. What I would say though, this really does kind of use high memory, so you're going to have to decide whether your computer handles it and if it's worth the gain. So we go to the fight log, and obviously I can just do this in between pulls. I can do it during a break. It's not a problem. And I can see everything that's going on. So damage. Okay, so I can see the damage players are doing. Not great interest in itself. Okay, so this is the damage done by allies. So this is the damage done by the actual boss. Source. So obviously I can isolate certain players. So again, maybe on Mythic you'd want to know which players are hitting bombs, which players are actually targeting the boss. I've got timeline up here, so I can see like barrage there. I can see when he's going to be casting certain abilities. So looking at this, if there's cooldowns need to be organised, I could perhaps start to tweak them depending on certain abilities and when he's using them. And obviously a fight length there. Healing, just like the damage, I can sort of break it down and look at see what the healers are doing. I can see are they using the right spells, are they using cooldowns. I'm not going to go into all this because there's so many different options here. I could spend all day. Auras again. Again, on a Gorfiend fight, you don't want people using say 3-minute cooldowns on the pull. So I can just check through here very quickly and see perhaps who did use cooldowns on the pull, or even if they did use cooldowns and where they used them. Enemies. Okay, can't see a lot there that would benefit me. Player spells, again, it's probably going a little bit too depth for what we need. Okay, similar thing there. Interruptions of spells could be handy, just to find out who's dispelling, how much they're dispelling. Obviously the Reaver's not really an important fight for the dispels or interrupts. Graphs again, so let's look at this player here. Okay, so this is their DPS, obviously it's high at the pull and it works its way down. You may ask what's the point of something like this, but if I put it on health or power, he's trying his hardest to pad the meters because he's burning through mana quite fast in LFR. If we just look at mine, I was probably standing still watching the fight. But the idea is, if it's a long fight, let's say it's a 7-minute fight we keep wiping at, I'm going to go into each of the healers and I'm going to look at their mana. And if I see 2 or 3 of the healers running out of mana at 6 minutes, and we're wiping at 7, that's going to start to give me some kind of idea of what's going wrong. Alternatively, if we're wiping at 7 minutes, and half your healers have got half mana, again, they need to be healing harder. You don't want to be wiping with everybody on half mana. They can obviously heal a lot harder. And again, obviously I look at this from a healer's perspective because I understand that side of the fight a little bit better, but again, if I'm regularly getting healers that are finishing the fight at half mana, then I can probably drop a healer. We're probably overhealing the fight. Or I can speak to that player and see if they'll reduce some of their spirit on their gear and perhaps go for throughput stats more. You don't want to be finishing a fight with half mana as a healer. So there's definitely things there I could be looking at. Death logs. Now, it was LFR and nobody actually died in that fight. Probably because Drumsy was overhealing them all. But, sorry Drumsy if you're out there. But where this could be handy is if you keep getting, say, a tank dying, or any player dying, but certainly tanks are important. I can look at their death log, I can see what actually killed them, I can see fraction of a second by a fraction of a second what heals were going into them, who was healing them, for how much. I can see if that tank was using any externals, defensives, if they were using any personal defensives. I can get a real clear picture of what was going wrong in that fight. And obviously I can do that with any player. Positioning. This is one of the advanced features of logging. It can be very handy in certain situations. So, for example, on this fight, I might want to highlight the tank and then just bring the fight through to that point where artillery hits and then make sure the tank's way out of the group. Alternatively, I might want to go to the point where pounding starts. And if I've got one player over here and one player over here and they're dying, well, it's because they're not within range of the cooldown that's being used to cover the pound. And obviously, each fight by fight, there are certain times when certain players need to be in certain positions, and this can be a very good way of checking that. Segments, I think you just break the fight down into different parts, and then just the various settings. Poor mages, for some reason you can hide their prismatic crystals damage. Oh, poor mages. But anyway, hopefully you get an idea there of some of the things it can do. And then send reports, so I'm assuming you can, oh yeah, so you can send some of that to chat, which, yeah, you may want to share it with, say, the officers or players. So really handy part of Exorus there. Does use up a lot of memory, but I'm assuming most people nowadays with computers can handle that. Okay, so let's move on. So Raid Inspect, again, I think this is a really another handy tool. It was LFR, so I'm not expecting every player to be, you know, geared up to the nines, but these things flashing are players that are missing enchants, which if you're in a more serious raiding guild, that's criminal, really. Collectively, all of that added together actually adds up to quite an increased loss in output. So I can just very clearly see what player, which ones they're missing enchants on. You could either give them a whisper or you could make a note of it, tell them next time. Yeah, just a nice way of checking the fight. Talents. How would you use that, maybe? Okay, so class. Okay, so perhaps on the Kilrog fight, if I've got mages that are carrying the Heartseeker buff for a long time and dying, or we're struggling trying to clear the Heartseeker buff, or the damage is high and that's one of the causes, I might look at the mages and I might want to know why some of them don't have, say, Greater Invis talented, why maybe some of them don't have Evanescence talented. I might be questioning this mage, if this mage was going into visions, why he's got Cauterize, which is going to stop him or delay him from dying when he gets 200 or 20 stacks. So yeah, there are applications here as a raid leader. And obviously just other information. Okay. So again, there are tools that probably do this, but it's just a nice and extra little thing to have. So notes. 6 months, a year ago, we found a lot of the top guilds started posting videos where they'd got written type, kind of set them with rotations and interrupts orders and things on it. And we discovered it was Angry Assignments, which was a new add-on they'd all started using. So obviously, you know, a lot of the lower guilds all ran out and got it, and it was really great, and we enjoyed using it in our guild for a long time. But looking at this, Exorus does exactly the same thing. So you can enable it, and you can type in here what the order, say an interrupt order. I think this is for Gorfiend Mythic, where yeah, this is in the Feast of Souls phase, where we're soaking the essence things, whatever they're called. But yeah, you can put that in, and then obviously you can move this around and you can resize it, reposition it, and there's a background thing. And you can log that for a certain fight and save it, and then the next week when you're in the same fight, you've got all the rotations or interrupt orders, what have you. So again, that's just another add-on you could do without. You could get rid of Angry Assignments and use this instead. That's quite handy. Raid check. I don't have an add-on that covers this, but I know a lot of raid leaders do. So you can check the rest of the raid for things like are they eating, are they flasking up, are they using runes, and obviously you can set this for the better runes or the better food. Yeah, and so obviously you can just set this so it reports to chat so players know if they need to buff up and stuff. It's not something I really would probably use a great deal, but I'm sure a raid leader could make use of this. Invite tools. Okay, I don't do raid leading enough to really know if this would be any of use. I can see what it does. Obviously, you know, it's self-explanatory. It's a variety of inviting tools for raids. Whether or not the raid leader would find this of any use, I don't know. Possibly. A marking bar. Let's just get rid of the notes. Marking bar. Oh, okay. Yep. So again, I've got an add-on at the moment called W Marker that does this. So by the looks of it, that's another add-on I'll be able to get rid of. Just quite clearly, you can either mark players with various symbols, or obviously if I was in a raid group, you'd be able to do the world markers and just clear it. And you can also do a ready check by the looks of it. So that's fairly straightforward. Handy little tool. And what's this? Okay, yeah, so I mean, you get situations, say, some tanks like to be marked, some don't, but if you've got a tank that always likes to be marked, I assume you can type the tank's name in there, and then he'll always have that symbol on him, or the same there for the other tank, possibly. Timers, I think DBM and Bigwigs pretty much cover this, but again, it's just another add-on that's got it, so you can do your pull timers, break timers, that kind of thing. Bonus loot. Okay, I cleared this earlier, but this would have been a list of the loot that dropped in the previous fight. So in the Iron Reaver fight, there would have been a list here of what dropped, what bonus trolls dropped. Would you want to check on it? Possibly. And again, here's just you can go boss by boss, so you can just see what gear drops from that boss. You can just see the various stats on things. It might be handy trying to work out when you're going to use your bonus rolls. I don't know. Obviously, you got the same information if you go into your raids. Right, classes. Not a lot in there really. It's more like just a library of all the various abilities from all the various classes. Maybe if you want to link something in chat, I don't know, or just check the something what it does. The boss mods. This is what introduced me to Exorsus. When you start on Mythic Cormrock, you find that this is quite a pretty essential tool. So at the moment, if you was doing, say, the train fight, Thorgar, you would. If you was doing the Iskar fight, you might bring up the Iskar add-on, which I've already brought up just there. I haven't configured that, but you can add people's names, change colours, change shape and size and position of everything. Archimond, that's the radar there. I just brought that up for things like the Raw Chaos, I think it's called. The lines that go through the raid that you need to avoid. The Infernals on Archimond, again, I just brought that up so you can track that. If we go back to Blackrock, you've got the grasping hands thing. So what you do, you assign these positions to various people in the raid. So you might have your melee at the front, ranged at the back, tanks over here somewhere, maybe the healers spread out throughout the raid. And it just means that what happens is when the hands come up to grasp you, depending on where your position is, there'll be a little arrow, like a HUDs up display, just to show you which one's yours and where you need to run to. And that just means that because you've assigned these to various players, no, you don't get two people running to the same hands. And this is really very much how the Cormrock works. So if you just bring that one up. Okay, so on the Cormrock fight on Mythic, there's a few occasions where the boss throws a load of gunk all over the floor and it covers the whole room. The only way you can stop it leaving a pool of nastiness is if you stand on the spot that it lands and you kind of absorb it. Now, in a 20-man Mythic raid, you haven't got enough players to cover the whole room, so you assign various players within your raid to these marks, and then when he does the ability, they'll get a little arrow or line that pops up like on a HUD display, and that shows where that player needs to run to soak that bit of goo. And by doing this, you keep this section of the room clear for the whole fight. Obviously, if you don't use this, you find you get two players trying to soak one puddle, and then a puddle gets missed, and then it's a little bit like the Gorefiend fight, where somebody drops a Doomwell in the middle of the fight, and you're trying to have to work around it the whole time. So, really, really important add-on for the Cormrock fight on Mythic. And I just saw something else as well. Yeah, on the Gorefiend fight, if you don't know the fight, instead of automatically getting expelled from the stomach when the digest timer runs out, you find that when you go into the stomach, you leave like a shadow or a soul of yourself upstairs, like a ghost figure. Now, what happens is one or two assigned players has to basically target that shadow and try and kill it. If they kill it too late and your digest timer runs out, you die inside the stomach. If they kill it too early, you come out the stomach, but you don't get enough chance to DPS the adds inside the stomach. So it's a really sort of like tricky part of the fight that those assigned players have to look at who's gone in, how close their digest timer is to running out, and how much health that player has, and how quickly they'll be able to finish them off just before the timer runs out. And it's with everything else going on, it's a really difficult part of the fight for a player. So having this means that you can look at the player's digest timers, whichever one looks like it's about to run out, click on that player, instantly you target them, you can hit them, and then click on the next one, target them, click on the next one, target them, and it's a really easy way, or not an easy way because it's a difficult thing to do, but it simplifies a difficult job. Right, so I'm not going to go through all of these, but these are just really a few of the boss mods that it does do. And again, for every one of these does, it's another add-on you can get rid of. So let's close all those down. Stats. So this is just really a personal thing, I guess. It just shows you how many pulls you had before your first kill, how many pulls you've had in total, how many kills. Just looking at that, I've got 2 Gorfin kills on Mythic. Not that I care, but I haven't got one, honest. Yeah, it's just some interesting information for yourself, really, I guess. Arrows. I did have a brief look at this earlier, and I'm not sure what value it'd have. Possibly somebody could explain it better to me. I kind of get the idea, but I think weak auras would probably do the same job better. So for example, I'm standing over here by this dummy. If I set a position, oops, I get an arrow pop up, and now if I run away from that dummy, the arrow remains. It tells me in which direction the dummy is and how far away from it I am. And obviously I've just set that position manually, but you can do it so you could recognise if a player has a debuff and how far away you are from them and in what direction. You could do it by name and obviously by marker. The only real thing I could think of was perhaps on the Cormoc fight, where the tank gets that debuff that explodes and you need to be a certain distance away from him. Possibly knowing which direction he is and the distance you are between the two of you is helpful. I mean, I've got a weak aura that does it, but yeah, it's maybe one to play with. I'm sure somebody can come up with something. So let's remove that. So saving a log. Right, so at the moment I have Ask Mr. Robot enabled. Since we stopped reforging, I don't find I use Mr. Robot half as much as I used to. But one of the things I keep it for is because it logs all my fights to Warcraft logs. So again, I could do that in here. I can literally enable it, and then this will send it to a file which I can then upload to Warcraft logs. So that could potentially replace another add-on. Thanks. So this one literally just links the loop from the boss to chat, so people can see what's going to be rolled on. If you're using an add-on like RC Loot Council, I think that kind of does it anyway. It's not really important, but it's possibly something you might use. And then the profiles, obviously, so you can just sort of set up and save yourself a profile depending on what you want. And that is Exorsus Raid Tools. So that's the first time I've really looked through it properly. I hope that's given you a brief glimpse at some of the potential of the add-on. I'm sure there are videos, like I've said, out there that explain it a lot better and in a lot more depth, but yeah, it was nice to go through it, so thank you for listening.